and then you
Okay,
can take it over from there.
sure.
All right. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in on our meeting on this lovely Thursday. So with us today, we have Jessica Walker. She works as a public relations manager and consultant for Markham, Norton, Mosteller, Wright and Company, otherwise known as MNMW.
Yep.
And so she oversees all marketing and branding matters for the firm. She has both her APR and her CPRC. And then she's also a board member for the Children's Advocacy Center and is on the chapter of the FPRA professional Southwest Florida professional chapter, and is a member of the social media committee for the Association for Accounting Marketing. And so she's going to have a little Q&A session for us tonight. So bring all of your questions to the table, anything you would like to ask her. She is a wealth of information. And so I'm looking forward to you guys' questions and then, hearing what Jessica has to say to all of us. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be able to see you guys, even though it's virtually. I know we've been talking about in-person events. Hopefully here in the near future, as the vaccines have rolled out, we can start seeing more of those in-person activities again. So I've been in marketing and PR for many, many years, and I'm a member of the FPRA Chapter, Southwest Florida Chapter here in Fort Myers area. I've been in Fort Myers since 2002, I think it is. So coming up on 20 years, which feels really weird to say, probably longer than some of you are old. But it's definitely an interesting field. So when I was growing up, I was always outgoing and extroverted. And I had actually considered photography as an industry, and it didn't quite go the way that I wanted to. I wasn't able to get into some of the programs that I wanted to be in. And so I thought, well, what would be another good opportunity for me? So I looked into the area of public relations. And when I was going to college for it, it wasn't necessarily an actual focus, like probably what many of you see now at FGCU. It was more just a communications degree. So I got my bachelor's in that, and then started working in the field down here. And then back in 2008, I got my accreditation in public relations. And 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, 2016, so 5 years ago almost, I got my CPRC, which means Certified Public Relations Counselor, which is done through the state of Florida. And I also received my bachelor's degree that was a focus in public relations from Kent State University online. So, definitely interesting to see how public relations and marketing has grown over the years and expanded. And I say public relations and marketing together, and you see that in my title, because in my mind that those go hand in hand. So you really need to understand both of them. And in many ways, in small companies, you're going to be doing both of them. So you'll find some people like to keep them separate. Big corporations like Coca-Cola or probably Amazon or large conglomerates will have a marketing department and a public relations department. But in smaller companies such as mine, or even in smaller cities, some people will be the individual handling both. And so it's definitely important to know that that is the case for where we are. What I do with Markham, Norton, Mosteller, Wright. It is an accounting firm. It's odd to say that my favorite public relations job ever has been with an accounting firm. You wouldn't think that. You'd think that it would be, kind of a boring place to be, but it's actually been the most fun and the most engaging place that I've ever been. To give you an idea of being in public relations gives you opportunities in a variety of industries. I mean, every industry needs communications. You can have a passion about fitness. You can have a passion about healthcare. You can have a passion about universities and education. Communications has to be in all of that, which means marketing and public relations has to be in all of that too. So my background is one that includes working at United Way, which is a nonprofit. I went from United Way to an engineering firm for a little bit. Then I went from an engineering firm to a retirement community, worked for Shell Point Retirement Community for many, many years. I left Shell Point Retirement Community to handle marketing PR for Edison State College at the time, which flipped to Florida Southwestern State College. I was part of the team that was there for that rebrand for switching Edison over to FSW. And then when I left FSW, I went to an accounting firm. So my public relations background has allowed me to be in all of these different fields, because once you understand how to communicate with an audience, and that's, you've probably heard that in your classes, your publics or your audiences kind of can be interchangeable. But once you learn how to communicate with an audience through any process of public relations, you can be in any industry. You could work for a nuclear plant as long as you knew how to implement all of the steps for public relations and marketing. So it's a fun field. It is different every day. And like I was mentioning to some of you earlier, that it's changed a ton, one, over the last 20 years, but in the last 12 months alone has seen significant change, because in years past, companies, if they had to do budget cuts, would always kind of think marketing first or public relations first, and think that that was more of a fluff position or things that they could live without. Well, when you switch to a world where communications has to be done in a virtual realm, they learned very quickly that that was an important role to have. And you've seen a lot of agencies have an uptick in their operations because of that. So with the accounting firm, I handle all the internal and external communications. Means working with our team, working with HR, working with our IT department to make sure that everything we implement is according to the laws and helpful for the team. We all have to make sure that we're doing the right things and the right rollouts. I do all the branding for the external when it comes to placing ads, running press releases. We also have clients now for our firm. So while we're an accounting agency, we do business consulting and also marketing and PR consulting. So I can offer the services that I do for Markham, Norton, Mosteller, Wright to clients as a paid feature. So now I'm also bringing a revenue source in for the accounting firm. So it really is kind of what you make of it. And I know, I can talk and talk and talk, but I like the flow of conversation and communications. Feel free to stop me with questions. I don't know if anybody has any questions right now or.
So I actually have Professor Winton, and she spoke about your team's HR programs. And even during around season time, they make sure that you guys have a salad bar and they're eating healthy throughout those super busy times. So my question for you is, do you think working for the company you work with now, do you feel like it's more enjoyable because of HR or just the environment, or maybe a combination of both?
It's a combination, and it's really a big collaborative effort. And so I speak a lot too about our culture. MNMW has an amazing culture, which is one of the reasons that I love it so much and find it so much fun to work with, is the leadership has an open door policy. They care about team members. They want to find ways to make work an enjoyable place, because you do spend a lot of time in the old days in the office. Now, granted, people can work remotely, but there's still a lot of time spent with work and collaboration. So they always want to make sure that our team is feeling the love, is feeling motivated, and would constantly check in with our team to see, hey, what would make your life easier, especially in tax season when we were in person. Tax, people, they work long hours when it's tax season and they won't leave their desk. They'll get into a project. It'll be 6, 7, 8 hours before they even realize they haven't gotten up and moved. So they definitely aren't thinking of running out of the office for lunch. So during tax season, they would always have lunches brought in, and not just, every day we have a salad bar open so that it's convenient for the team. But in tax season, they would bring in much more substantial meals, because they knew people were just, some of our team will get up to 80 hours a week in tax season, just doing work, just billable work with clients, because there's that. Last year and this year are especially interesting because in the tax season, there's so many changes when it comes to the relief bills and the pandemic and the support for businesses and individuals. So there's constant readjustments and stuff. So, they do those things to try and keep the team motivated. And again, it's a collaboration between HR, marketing, and what we call our partner team. Those are basically the 9 people that are the bosses of the company. And they're always looking for stuff to do. During tax season in the past too, we would always have coffee runs, chair massages 1 or 2 times a month. You know, we do a lot of things to try and help bring, you know, some engagement, some enrichment into their lives to give them a break. Because, you know, even probably just from doing homework and assignments, you can spend hours on a project and you just need to step away for 5 or 10 minutes to get a refresh and a restart. So we would do games once a week during tax season. And because of this virtual environment, it's been a challenge to figure out, how do we keep that? How do we help them where some people are in the office, some people are at home? How do we keep our culture of a family connectivity, a family environment? And one of the things that we've been doing a lot of is working with local businesses, because we want to shop local and support local, and finding ways to create unique deliveries. So we several times worked with Jason's Deli to have boxes of snacks and things delivered to team members at their homes or at the office, wherever they were. We are doing March Madness right now. So every Monday we're doing some kind of a surprise for the team members. And it does require that we have to mail stuff out to the ones that aren't in the office right now. But again, we want them to know, hey, even though we can't be under one roof all together at this time, we're all still here and we still support you and we still love you. So it really is it's a fun thing to do, because you have the support of your leadership from the top in everything that we do. And that's what makes it really nice. And for communications, marketing, and PR, anytime you can have a seat at the table, or you can have leadership that will listen to you or listen to what your team needs, that makes a huge difference. Not just for the team, but a happy team resonates to happy clients. And that's what you're looking for. So I don't know if that answers it or not.
No, that answers a great question. And through like my PR classes, I've always been like intrigued by leadership. And it's interesting because I never thought about how leadership inherently affects our clients until I've been able to like apply the things that I'm learning in PR now with Professor Winton specifically. I'm learning in PR strategy. We talk about HR a lot.
Yeah.
And just applying it to like my simple serving job, but recognizing that carries over in almost any industry, but it's really awesome that PR also highlights it, because it's true. It creates an entire culture, not only behind the doors, but also in front of your clients.
Yeah.
Totally.
When you have to know too, that your team, when people talk about audiences or publics, you know, target publics, I don't know which language you use in different classes, but you know, you can say, oh, I want to reach everybody, which is not a true possibility. You have to really segment your audiences and target who you're going to reach to be successful. And so it's important to always know that your internal audience, your employees, your team is an audience, and you have to communicate with them differently. And you do have to communicate and make sure that they're happy and treated well too. So it all works together. It's a big puzzle that fits perfectly when done right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I know that you said that you had started out with United Way on the nonprofit side of things, and just from taking a nonprofit class right now, along with Caitlin and Kaylee, I was just curious how that compares to your job in like the corporate world right now. Is it more on your plate? Is it less?
Yeah, no, it definitely. So I have to give United Way and Shell Point huge shout outs, because all of my experience and anything that I may, you know, be able to do well for my employers now is because of those two specifically. I mean, I learned great stuff in school and too, but when you get into the industry and you get to do hands-on activities, it does help really solidify that and help you kind of find your groove. Definitely when you work with a nonprofit as their marketing and PR person, you are going to do a lot more of the work, which is great, because that's why I loved it so much, is I got to do it and I got to learn it all. There wasn't somebody doing something and just saying, hey, this is what you'll do one day. I was the only person in their marketing and PR department, as you call it. I was a department of one. And so, you know, the good thing is that I also learned that you got to get into the mix with everybody as well. You can't just direct people to do stuff. I was always willing to jump in. If we had an event, I'm there at, 6 a.m. or whatever it is that's needed to get stuff done. And same with Shell Point. When I was there, I would coordinate their open house events. They would have 2 a year. And the spring one, because we're in South Florida, would have a significant increase in attendance, where we'd have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people come through. And you have to be willing to show up and work those long hours. And if somebody is, not able to cover a shift somewhere, you jump in and help out, because that's going to build a stronger team anyway. But nonprofit is a great learning ground. They are just so appreciative too of what you're doing, and you might not always have the largest paycheck with nonprofits, because that's just the nature of that industry. But what I will say is that probably too, I think, Kaylee, you were saying you work with a mental health organization, as you start to see the services that you provide, and you start to get payment and more of an appreciation for what that organization is doing. So with United Way, it was always empowering to see what I was doing was helping an organization that was helping other people. And I got to talk to those clients and those people and hear how their lives were changing. And sometimes you get that, and that just is as wonderful. Obviously you have to get money to pay the bills, not saying don't get paid. But it is a great benefit to see that you are making such a positive influence, because after all, we're all here together. Everybody has different battles that they might encounter, and you might never know what they're encountering. So it's always important in my mind to be kind. But it definitely helps and makes you feel good to know that you're really helping other people that are trying. And when I came to Markham Norton, and we do a United Way campaign in our firm, they just have the rep come and talk about the stats and everything, which is great. Accountants love numbers. But I said, look, I want United Way to send us a client every time we have our kickoff, so that people can see what their money is doing and hear firsthand how it's helping. Because it's great for me to tell somebody, yeah, your money stays here locally, and that's awesome. But when they see a mom and her son that have been impacted by the dollars that they've gotten because you were donating to that campaign, it really hits home. And I would always tell them, I'm like, I'm not showing you this to make you give more or to make you feel a certain way. I'm showing you this so that you see you're making an impact, because that's important. And if you can't, and I always tell people, if you can't give, don't give either. Just know that maybe you could volunteer someday at a food bank. If you can't financially donate, just find something that you can do to make the community a better place. And nonprofits kind of instill that in you. So they're great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely. Yeah. And it kind of heightens what we've been talking about in Professor Winton's nonprofit class as well, that, it's not the biggest paycheck, but it's the reward of what you're doing is, it outweighs that. So that's nice to know that, you experienced that firsthand and everything. So that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. The only reason I even left that role at the time was because I had an increase in bills, and I needed to find needed the higher paying opportunities. But I was there for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was a significant amount of time, and I'm still friends with all the people. In fact, actually next Wednesday, United Way is doing a competition fundraiser called the Battle of the Burnt Woods. So Burntwood Tavern at Gulf Coast and Burntwood Tavern at Bell Tower are having celebrity bartenders, and I'll be at the Gulf Coast Town Center one to help them fundraise. So I'm still friends with a lot of the people at United Way and still want to find ways to help with their fundraising efforts.
Awesome. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
So I know you said that your position right now is your PR, but that you also offer PR to the clients that you guys have at the accounting firm. I have a question. Was that position made for you? Did you inquire to also provide PR to the clients, or did you take over a position that's what they did previously?
So one of the other unique aspects of this firm is that leadership is very supportive of their team and wanting to advance themselves professionally. Personally, they always want to support all their team members, not just myself. So when I came over to them, they had a marketing position before for many years, and that person left, and they tried to do a couple different things, talking about companies, seeing if they could kind of keep things internally and break apart the position. for communications. They tried to have a few different people handle different parts of a marketing role, and it just was too much. So they opted to recreate the position. So when I came on board, they were still in the process of building that, trying to see what it would entail. So I got to help in building that position when they brought me on board, which was amazing. So when I came on board, it was all just internal stuff. There wasn't any external to it. The marketing and PR consulting had not been done through this firm before. When I came on, though, we do offer human resources consulting and we offer IT consulting. So those two things were already in place. And the way they came about is the people that were in those roles, those management roles, said a lot of times a tax client manager will come to our IT manager and say, hey, a client's got a question about this. Would you be able to help? And it kind of just grew that said, we can help them. Why don't we make this a service that's available to some smaller companies? So as I came on board, one of the things that I did with Markham when I first came in, I was a department of one again. And I talked to them about letting me hire somebody that would handle graphic artwork and website management and things like that. And so I have a wonderful person now. She's an FGCU grad, Krista Castile, does amazing, amazing work. And she works with me and we were able to expand that. Part of what I told the partners at the time, I said, it's important to have this person because we can control our brand if we can handle all of it. Like design work, I'm not an artist. But if I can have an artist that can listen to what we're asking for and keep our message consistent, keep our imagery, our themes, our brands consistent, then that's perfect. So they were open to that. But then also to ensure that we could do that, I said, why don't we start offering some services to clients? And so we've slowly been rolling it out for the last couple of years. It's really picked up speed in the last 12 months because businesses are trying to figure out how to use their websites, how to use their social media to continue operations in this mostly digital world that we're having to live in at the moment, especially last spring. So it was not something they had before, but that's the great thing is when you find leaders that are open to listening to you and to working with you, and you can't just go up to them and say, hey, I just want to do this. I went with them and said, hey, I can offer these services on a small scale. I'm not, a priority marketing or pushing the envelope or Conric. All of those are amazing places and they're full service PR firms. They can take on and do massive campaigns. What we do is we kind of help clients that maybe can't afford the big agencies and can't afford a full-time person of their own, but for projects here and there, we can be of assistance. So I know Krista has actually created 5 websites for clients in the last 12 months. She maintains a couple of them. We have one client that we actually kind of treat almost like Markham now, in that we handle everything. I even actually handle the client's individual LinkedIn account. And we meet with him and his team every 2 weeks to talk about what we've done as far as marketing and PR and what we could do different, what we need from them. So it's kind of just grown. And that is, again, because we have leadership that's open to hearing about that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's kind of loud, but
No.
I guess so you were saying how, a lot of people in PR tend to have like similar personalities and interests. What would be like your biggest tip? Because I feel like right now, job-wise, I'm like struggling figuring out like because I have a lot of interests. So like narrowing it down, I guess I'm kind of at that point, I'm just like stuck for narrowing it down. Do you have any
You mean
tips?
like industry-wise or?
Just PR in general, because obviously my major is communication PR, but I'm just like struggling. I know obviously there's nonprofit, government, PR firm, but like beyond that, there's so many job titles from coordinator to manager to whatever. So I don't know if you have any tips or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and if I don't quite answer it, let me know and I can rephrase and stuff too. But all the different titles kind of just lay down to the different responsibilities and roles that you guys would come into. I mean, I think when I started, I was a coordinator because at United Way because learning position, and different companies will change titles for this organization. And, she identified all the positives and the things that she was doing. and identified the kind of title she should have. Actually, 2 friends of mine have done this recently. They did their research. They showed what they should be, title wise, as far as what they're doing, just what they should be making, things like that. And they brought it to their bosses with proof and, substantial backup as to what they were doing to deserve those things. And both of them got it. So, I mean, research makes a big difference. When it comes to, I think more companies are going to be open to having communications teams, especially given that they're trying to figure out how to talk to everybody. Because honestly, until all of this happened, people just took for granted that, they can have business referrals or they can catch up with them at the chamber events. And we might get some of that back, a lot of that back. I don't know that it'll ever be exactly what it was. I think that the pandemic has definitely put its heels in as far as making change into the networking realm of things, because for conferences, I go to several conferences a year, all of them were virtual last year. So it does make a little bit of a difference there. I think that you have to find a company that you're interested in or an industry you're interested in and really research what their options are. And sometimes too, again, when I went to MNMW, they were just saying, hey, we know we need a marketing person, but we haven't laid out the job description yet. Here's what we're thinking. And I came in and said, well, I think that X, Y, and Z would be beneficial to you too. Go in and show them what and show them that they really want you, and that it's a two-way street. And it really is a two-way street. You can interview for a job and think it's going to be great, but if you don't feel it or don't feel good about it, don't put yourself through, trying to make yourself fit into that. We always say, even where I'm at now, is that you have to have the right people on the bus and in the right places on the bus. And it's important for you to be happy and healthy in what you're doing as well, not just making a paycheck. You have to enjoy where you're at. The other thing I always tell people, especially being in PR marketing, and I hope none of you ever have to encounter these kinds of things, but ethics and helping people understand the proper way to handle things and not putting yourself in an unethical position or asking you to do something that you're not comfortable with, or, cover something up, God forbid, or, just doing something that as you go through your studies, you'll know what it means. You probably have seen the PRSA code of ethics. I'm sure Professor Winton has shown that a couple of times. And you want people to respect what you do as a living, because while you're also a representative of that company and you are helping them with their brand, you yourself are also a brand. You have to remember that what you do in your career will help you or hurt you later as you grow in your career. So if you don't anticipate staying with a company forever, you want to make sure that what you do and what is seen that you do in the community, in the business world, is done transparently, ethically, properly, all of the things that you can, so that you're more marketable down the line if you decide to move on. And you don't want people to try and, I know it's rare, you'll hardly see this, but you don't want people to say, oh, well, the PR person told me to do this, so that was their fault if something goes wrong. Again, great extremes. Hopefully none of that ever comes about. I hope all of you find wonderful places to begin with, but remember that you are your own brand, and always protect that. So if you feel that you're going to be asked to do something that's going to make you questionable in the future, really sit down and have a conversation. And there's nothing wrong with that either. If maybe your boss doesn't realize what they're asking for, and I've had those conversations with colleagues too, when they said, I've been asked to do something that I don't think is right, and I think it's going to be questionable. And I'm like, explain it to them, because what seems normal to us sometimes can be foreign to other people, because what they're experts in is foreign to us. I try to explain that with the accountants. I've learned so much about tax that they never thought I'd need to know. And writing our e-blast is something that I have to do with all of that weird language. So I know when I first was doing it, they would be like, this just seems to make sense. Just send that out. And I'm like, this does not make sense. I don't understand it. If you want it, we got to write it down a little bit. Because what I said, what's normal to you is not normal to me. And we finally figured it out when I'm like, how about the next public speaking event I have? I'll just throw you up there on the podium. And they're like, we get it. we'll work with you now. So it is, you find something you feel good about. And does that help? It's Lillian, right? Any
I have a
others?
question.
Yeah.
So how do you go about promoting like the PR, the tech, the accounting? Do you kind of do it all in one, or do you try to separate them? Like when you're promoting what you offer as a company?
Mm-hmm. We try to promote all of it. So our firm has been accounting from day one. When Gail Markham, 42 years ago, she decided she was in a position where, she wasn't being given the kind of opportunities that she thought she deserved, and she did deserve, because she was very knowledgeable then, super knowledgeable now, and decided if people weren't going to help her be better at what she can do and help the clients, she just go do her own thing. And so she opened the doors of her own firm as a single sole practitioner offering tax services. Then Joni Norton joined her, and then Karen Mosteller joined her, which is, as you know, part of the names. They're all still there as well. Same with Randy Wright. All of the original partners are still there, and we have 5 new partners. Not adding to the names. We already have enough in there, and they know that. So it takes a lot of work. When I do a lot of events like the Above Board Chamber and stuff, I always, if we're sponsoring, we have an opportunity for myself or somebody from the firm to speak. And we always say, hey, everybody knows we do accounting. That's just kind of a given. But do you know that we do all these other things? And so you see light bulbs going on as we do that kind of stuff. So we do try to promote it that way. We also cross promote, and we try to encourage our team to do that. So every month we have a team meeting virtually right now. But every division in our firm has a slide to kind of share an example of what they're doing. The reason we do that is so that others in the firm that might be talking to a client, because we do forensic accounting, we do family mediation, we have litigation support, we have elder service care, we have IT consulting, HR consulting, we specialize with medical practice consulting, business consulting, and construction business management consulting, and nonprofit consulting. So we have a lot, but they're all working with their clients on different things. And our culture has us treat clients almost like family too. So you tend to get to know them. And in those conversations with them, they might be listening to say, hear somebody say, oh, I've been having problems with my computer. I can't get it to work, or I don't like this software, or I need to hire this person. Just in conversation, they're listening for that. So they can then go, well, we could help with that. Do you know that we offer X, Y, and Z? So it's a little bit of a multifaceted approach to it. We do announce it at meetings. We have it in press releases. Our boilerplate at the bottom has all of the services listed. We also work with specific niche groups. So, for the litigation support and the family mediation stuff and forensic accounting, we have a partnership with the Bar Association in Collier County and Lee County. We do sponsorships and ad placements in their magazines. When it comes to the medical societies, there's one in Lee and one in Collier. Same thing. We have a sponsorship package with them that puts ads in their specialty publications that go to the doctors. And the other one goes to legal professionals. And so you're getting them with their specific areas, but still it's a lot of work. We use our social media. Our newsletter always does a service spotlight at the bottom so that people can kind of learn a quick snippet of what we do. We do that every other month. Just a lot of, constant reminders. And it's one of those things that relationship building, which is what you will play a key role in, is important, because sometimes what we do with this firm anyway is not something you just wake up one morning and go, I need to run to the store and grab milk and eggs. It's not an instant purchase. These are services that people sometimes research and take time to transition to and build relationships with. When it comes to accounting, people might have a very solid relationship with their current accountant. Maybe they retire. Maybe something happens that they're not comfortable with and they want to make a change. People aren't always looking for the services until they're looking for the services. So if you stay out in front of those people and build those relationships. When it comes time, if you say it enough and you do it enough, when they need it, they'll think on it for a minute. And hopefully, if you've been at front of thought for a long time, you'll come to mind for them to bring those needs to you. Because I've sat at lunch with people that I'm friends with and said, oh yeah, we off, they'll tell me about some problem they're having with software. And I'm like, we do IT consulting, and they get our newsletters and I see that they read them, and, but until they need them, they just don't think of it. So it's an ongoing thing, and it has to come from more than one spot.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to have, because I was actually I manage our social media platforms, and I saw on Twitter I needed to update the bio, and I saw I only get 160 spots for the bio on Twitter, and I spent probably a good half hour trying to get all of our services, or at least some abbreviated version of them, listed to put in that little bio. I'm like, we have too many things. Twitter doesn't seem to like this. The other thing that,
go ahead.
What's that?
I
was just going to say that the other thing that we offer too is in our consulting services is video production. We do that as well now.
I was going to say that when you were just naming them off from the top of your head, I was surprised you can even remember all of them.
It definitely takes a lot. For the longest time, I had my business card, because on the back of our business card, which you probably see, those of you that have it, we list a lot of services. The list has gotten longer over the years. But for the longest time, I had that taped to my computer so I could always see it. Now, luckily, I deal with them all, and we're promoting them all in different ways, so it's easier to come to mind. But again, we're doing things that we didn't think that we would be doing. The video production, we have a video blog, I guess you could say. We have a regular blog on our website, and then we have the video blog, and we shoot, edit, produce all of the videos in-house that are on there. We call them MNMW talks, and there's like a host and everything. But it's also a service that we're working with clients now too. I mean, this is just kind of created, we had all these ideas of what we would do as consultants for the clients that would be within our range, so that we wouldn't be overextending ourselves, that we could still do quality work for the firm and for the clients. And it's just grown from there, and more people are coming in, so much so that actually I'll be talking in a few weeks with Nikki Mann about the internship program, and trying to figure out how to bring that in to our firm for marketing and communications. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I can hopefully get something set up with the fall. I've got to do my research and then take it to the partners.
That's awesome. That's super cool. I'm sure we'll all be excited to hear about some internship opportunities. Oh, well, actually, only 2 of us will stay on the board, but we'll keep an eye out for it for sure.
Yeah.
I have another question. I know you guys offer so many services. So I think in some way, when it comes to new clients, you probably get a lot of different reasons people come to you on like their first visit. And what do you find is the reason that most you usually get new clients? Like, what's the reason they come to you for the first place?
The biggest thing is referrals, and that builds on relationships, not just from what marketing is doing, but from our team as a whole. I mean, no matter what, when you're out and about and people know where you work, they'll ask you questions about it. Friends will know what you do. Acquaintances will know what you do, and hear about your work from their clients. So referrals is by and far the largest that we have. Now, some of that comes from a few of the marketing efforts, but we don't advertise like your typical businesses. You might see, ads on emails or ads on the newspaper or in magazines. You don't normally see an ad from our firm, because that's not the way that we go about business. We go about business in that it's relationship referrals and it's community support. And so if we're going to spend dollars on something, we want to spend dollars where it's going to make an impact. And that means maybe we're a sponsor for an activity or an event that's supporting a nonprofit. And then the way that we're advertised is they use our logo, or they reference our website, or they give us tickets to an event to come network in person. We're supporting a cause, we're supporting and building our community, but we're still advertising in a sense. So you can spend a few $1,000s on a newspaper ad or a magazine ad, or you can spend those few $1,000s with an organization that's doing something good in your community that's still going to give you that reach, because it's not just giving you the reach at the event, it's promoting the event. It's, especially with social media now, they can give you constant shout outs or tags. And I see that because I'm the main person behind the social media, and Krista's the main person behind the website. Now we can flip and flop, but we kind of divide and conquer that way. And so we'll get alerts that somebody's tagged the firm, and it's usually like the SBDC or Pace Center for Girls or somebody that we've done a sponsorship with that's now giving us a shout out, and we're still helping them. So it's about relationships and the community building. And that's really what is our biggest draw, is the referrals, and that set of relationships is really crucial. And I've gone to chamber events and met people and made friends and talked about our services. And I might do that to the same person for 2 years at all these different activities and events. And then when they need the services, they remember, Jessica always talks about this. Let me call her and see what it'll cost, or let me call and see what that would mean if I tried to come over there. So it's definitely the relationship building that's going to be there in those referrals. This, for a service industry like this. Now, everything's different. If you're in retail, you have people that are looking for instant gratification on stuff. So it really depends on your audience and your industry as to how you go about it. But for corporate, for what we do, I would say it's the referrals.
Super beautiful. No, I love the community building aspect of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
I was going to ask, so I know you kind of mentioned at the beginning that it was like really important to have like marketing and PR, like experience and knowledge. Is there like any way that you like suggest, like for us, like if we don't have like as much like knowledge on marketing to get that? Like, should we take like marketing classes along with like our PR ones if we can, or anything like that?
I would say, so I don't know what the marketing classes offer, and I didn't take marketing classes when I was in college. So hopefully that'll put some of that at ease. A lot of what you find when you're doing your job, especially if you're working for an organization where you're kind of a one-man shop for marketing and PR, you're going to do those things kind of unknowingly anyway. Marketing, the best way to think about it is marketing is always the paid portion of things, that they pay for an ad and they can evaluate how many things came in from that ad. PR, people see it more as just the reputation and the brand recognition, the fluffy stuff. But PR can be measured too. You just have to be very strategic in the beginning of setting up, hey, we have a goal of getting more awareness for our product in the South Florida region, specific markets of X, Y, and Z. And then you set a measurable objective behind that of, we will increase our sales of these widgets in Fort Myers, Florida by 20% by August 31st. So you can measure PR and you can show your leadership that PR is just as profitable and just as important as the marketing side of things. You just have to do it very strategically from the beginning, because everything we do in PR can be measured. I know people say, oh, it's just prints and, it's pickup of a press release. You can't really measure that. Well, you can, you just have to figure out how you want to measure it and do that in the front end so that you've got something to measure against. But you're going to do, unless you're, in my opinion, unless you're in a big conglomerate company that's a Starbucks or Walmart or something that has like a corporate headquarter with tons of moving parts, you're going to find that marketing and PR tends to fall together. And small businesses, especially, I can't think of any place here locally that would separate the two. Even all your agencies that do, the Conricks, the priorities and the pushing the envelopes, they are PR agencies, but they're doing marketing because they're paying for your ads to be placed. They're measuring how much is coming in off that ad. They're creating videos that are getting links and hits. And that's the other thing, analytics in the social media and the digital world make it so much easier to track and measure things. I mean, with our client alone that we're doing all this stuff for, we launched a brand new website for him and have sent out a few e-blasts. And actually on the last e-blast, because we have found his target audiences. We have certain lists that we're working with. He had 800 and some odd click-throughs, which we'd not seen before for any of the stuff that we've done with him. So it really, you find out if you place an ad, and sometimes it's trial and error. You know, we're placing an ad for another client in a magazine that is an industry related magazine, and we're going to see if that bumps up any of the business calls or bumps up any of the stuff that they need. So everything is measurable, and marketing and PR, I don't know that I would say you have to take a separate class, because honestly, you're going to end up doing a lot of it. I mean, anybody that, if I do get an internship for our firm, they're going to learn both of them just by watching what we do in general. So I feel like over the years, even though people do have them separate in a few areas, they've kind of rolled together. And I've always put them together, even before it was a popular thing. So, Now, any other questions? I mean, I can always share stuff all day long. I'll say too that even as a, so like right now you'll see my name tag, but then also I have on it's called Beasley's Paw Prints. It's for the Children's Advocacy Center. You know, find something you're passionate about too, and support in that way, because that's still business development. You know, granted, it's great to go network at chamber events, to go to professional meetings, but people recognize you too, and just as much when you're involved in the community, even as a personal, professional individual. Sometimes, you know, when you get to serve on boards or committees or volunteer for something, people aren't just hearing you talk about the kind of work ethic you have, which is the same kind of ethic probably relate in your workplace. They see you doing that, and they see you putting in the blood, sweat, and tears with them. And, you know, a lot of times we'll do stuff too as a team where it's several of our team members coming over to do something. And that makes a difference too. People see that you're willing to get in and work hard for something and not just pass the buck or pretend, you know, that you're caring about something and not show up to do it. You know, if somebody has a call out for stuff, in addition to the sponsorships, we're always trying to find ways. It was easier pre-COVID, but find ways to support our community. We would have a group outing to go do a charity event for one day. We participate in races as a team and support. We would collect toiletries in our office for a long time, and then we worked with the United Way to package little toiletry bags to give to the Abuse Counseling Treatment Center for women that had to maybe flee their situations with only the clothes on their back, and so they want little bags of shampoos and toothpaste. So you just find ways to make your community stronger. And that's, as a PR person, you kind of help to drive that too. Sometimes, depending on the company you work with, if you're with, you know, like where I am, the accountants, they want to do stuff, but they're different. They're introverted. They're not as outgoing and boisterous as probably I am, and maybe Krista and Gail, our founding partners, very, very outgoing. But if I give them all these ideas or I implement things, they all want to get involved. They just like it's an expert area for them with tax, they don't always think of how do I find this place or how do I find something to support and be involved in, but they want to do it. So sometimes as the PR and communication person, you might be leading the charge for that for your companies, and not just for charity, for anything. If it's team opportunities or making something better for the team, you know, you can help kind of start those conversations and do that research and really get the ball rolling with a lot of that. So, I mean, the role is really what you make of it in the end. And a lot will depend too on who your bosses are and your employers are. But it really does a lot of great things, and it's a lot of fun. It's different every day. My calendar looks like a complete train wreck because I always try to block schedule, and then something else comes up. So I just move the blocks to the next day and then the next day. And so it's always a very colorful looking organization. So any other questions? I mean, here to help. And I don't know what I might have said on the panel a couple of years ago that was so exciting, but I'm happy to repeat it.
It sounds like we're starting to wind down with questions here. Lillian said she had to head out for work. Thank you for coming, Lillian. we will see you in a couple weeks. Yes, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, Amanda and I heard you speak in a panel a couple years ago and really enjoyed it in Rajowski's class. We also loved her and thought she brought in, I think there were four
There were
panelists
four
that she
total.
brought in.
I loved the personal
Yeah.
connection,
Mhm.
just the personal connections that you find within PR, because I'm currently working for Lee County and I'll have a full-time job with them fortunately after I graduate.
Good.
And the executive director of the economic development office knows Professor Urshowski, and I would never have thought that, you know, John Talmadge would know, you know, Phyllis Urshowski and everything. So just, it shows you how everybody's just very, you know, it's a very tight-knit community, which I really like. So
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, you're definitely on the right path. I know that you're in the student chapter of FPRA, but I encourage you, as you get out into the professional realm, definitely stick with FPRA, because another thing that shout out I can give for my career is that every job that I have had here locally, I can credit back to FPRA in some way or another, because the friendships and the professional relationships I've gotten over the years have been through that organization. And the job I have now, I got because it was a recommendation by another FPRA member. They sent my name into Gail when she just happened to mention it. Then we'll be looking for somebody. Can you keep people in mind? And they just connected us right away. Same with the college. It was a job that came through FPRA. So make sure that you're not just sitting as a member, you know, on paper in some of these organizations, and any organization. If you get involved in something, try to do what you're doing now. Go to meetings, get on the board, get in the team, because those connections are what's going to drive your career and your passions long going. And it's nice because you're around people that are like-minded and thinking and doing the same things you are. So it's easy to relate to others and build some strong friendships too.
definitely. Well, thank you.
All right. Oh, were you gonna say something, Caitlin?
I was just gonna say thank you so much, and I'm happy your dog didn't want to interrupt you. You're lucky this Zoom call, right?
Yeah. She's not gotten up from the bed. As you might hear, my husband's doing some stuff around the kitchen, and she didn't even get up to welcome him. She's done for the day. So luckily the visit and the heat wore her out, and she stayed very quiet.
Me too.
She does have her own Instagram. So if you ever get bored and want to
you want
follow
to
her
drop
there,
it in the chat, I'm sure a bunch of
go
us will
right
go
ahead.
follow.
there's
Yeah, throw it in the chat for sure.
when I'm playing with my social media practice, I tend to use her account when I want to practice something or try something different, so that I don't mess up my firm
That's
account, you
awesome.
know.
Definitely.
But yeah,
You put that
it's
as a
actually
tip.
really simple. It's Stella's.stories.
I'm looking that
We all
up.
grab our phones.
So
I was gonna say
So
we're
you'll
gonna
see-
put that out as a tip. If you want to get social media practice, start an Instagram for your pet.
Yeah.
well, it's true. I take so many photos and videos of her, you know, that I knew for my professional Facebook page, it's personal/professional, but I couldn't post 30 photos a day or something there. So I made her own page, and people that want to see it can check her out there. So
That.
And again,
I have
Got a
Instagram for
puppuccino today.
yes, and it's definitely it's good, like I said, good practice. If I want to test something out before trying it on the firm page, I can mess with her account, and if it's a total fail, then I just know not to do it on the firm page.
Nice. I love it.
Hilarious. That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, since it
Okay.
doesn't seem like we have any more questions. Thank you so much for
Yes,
being here.
thank
I'm
you.
sure, I mean, I know I could ask you questions all day long, but I'm not gonna make
Anytime. But you guys
everybody
are
sit through
welcome to
that.
email me. I know Amanda has my contact information, so feel free to share it with the chapter. Any questions you guys have, if you know you want me to speak at any other events in the future or come out for anything, I'm always happy to do so. So I'm a resource and available to you guys as you need help.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We will definitely be reaching out again. So
Please
thank
do.
you.
And to our members who are on here, thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you again in a couple weeks. If you are graduating this semester, just remember you have to attend 3 meetings to get your honor cord. I know we sent a reminder about that the other day through email. And also, if you are not graduating and looking to apply for a board position, it is the same thing with the 3 meetings. And we will be having more information about all this coming up in a couple weeks. So make sure you're attending meetings so you can meet your 3 meetings if you haven't already. That's kind of a long rant.
Very well done.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys. Have a great night.